e-commerce, and the trend did eventually start to lessen. But if you are on kind of the up and coming and you set up the infrastructure to be kind of ahead of the curve when you're starting to notice these trends, right? If you see it on Oprah, it might be too late. But if you hear about it on the radio or like a popular organic health blog, or a number of different resources that you could actually hear about it from, and then you kind of get ahead before the curve really starts to explode, then you can be in a position where you can have that competitive advantage and be able to kind of take advantage of it. So vintage, retro, futuristic, minimalist, clothing, furniture, accessories, right? So that's kind of a mouthful. Oh, and chalk paint. So these two are great ones just because vintage and retro, it's kind of like a seasonal thing. With fashion, a lot of times there's kind of a rotation of popularity, right? So it'll become popular, it'll kind of fade, and then it'll cyclically become popular again. So vintage and retro and futuristic and minimalistic clothing is just a great one. It's maybe not too minimalistic for clothing, but you want to add an additional layer of specificity. Whether it's vintage sunglasses, it just appeals to a target audience that is a very accustomed to purchasing specialty items, which is what drop shipping is about. Enamel pins, fishing, these are two amazing ones. Fishing is absolutely a beautiful topic, right? Again, a ton of different tiny little lures and jackets and replacements for reels, and all different types of lures with colors and fish and wiring and fake fish and all of these different things, all these tiny little kind of things that you can send very easily. Again, it has a little bit older of a demographic, usually with more disposable income and time, and they're used to computers, and they have the ability to pay a little bit extra for these things in a specialty sense that they want. Enamel pins are perfect, small, very cheap to ship, incredibly inexpensive to create, and you can kind of create enamel pins for anything, right? Whether it's like a meme or a popular like TV show, if it's like Game of Thrones in some way, right? And we'll talk about later in the course how to kind of go about selling things that you need licensing for, specifically like Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and things like that. Specialty socks, everyone wears socks, or hopefully most people wear socks, and socks are a great one. They've been proven again and again to be extremely successful from a dropshipping perspective, right? We've seen people create multi-million-dollar businesses with socks that have kind of a layer of rubber on the bottom that are kind of makeshift shoes that you can store in camping, or if you don't have very much space in your backpack, but you kind of want that additional option. We've seen people make Star Wars socks and all different types of kind of like niche socks for very passionate fan bases, which is a huge advantage from a dropshipping perspective. Jewelry is one that has kind of been very beaten into everyone if you kind of do follow the space as being very successful. Jewelry makes an important point, right? Because every time that we want to consider getting into a niche from a dropshipping perspective, jewelry kind of plays out the perfect final little point that you want to accentuate, which is, right, the products you sell, you want them to appear valuable, right? You want them to give off kind of the ambiance of value and being expensive, but you don't want them to actually, in reality, be expensive to buy. And jewelry is the perfect example of that. It looks valuable, right? It looks expensive, but actually in real life, unless you're using like real gold and real diamonds, which none of these suppliers would be using, right? It's actually in reality very cheap. So if it looks expensive, but it doesn't cost very much money, that is the perfect kind of item that you want to drop ship, right? Because it gives you, those higher multiples of, return on investment and profit, right? Because if you're buying it for $1 and you're selling it for, $10, it gives you a lot of space, to pay for shipping and more kind of cost for advertising, and still kind of give you that room that you really want as far as a profit margin, right? It allows you to, give 30% off coupons, 50% off coupons for new buyers, right? And getting a new buyer, if, you follow the space at all, is much harder than kind of selling to an existing buyer. So, steep discounts where you're still profiting to get those first customers is a huge advantage. And we're going to talk about how to kind of lure people in with big discounts. We're going to talk about free plus shipping models. We're going to talk about all that in just a few minutes. But first, I want to kind of get everyone into the mindset of what you want to look for in a niche, right? So minimalist wallets for men, again, all kind of the same thing that I was talking about before. specialty jewelry, vintage wedding dresses, right? So this is one that I wanted to kind of accentuate just because wedding dresses is not a good niche, right? There's so many people out there. There's so many big companies who are selling wedding dresses, but vintage wedding dresses, right? Or retro wedding dresses, or, maybe pink wedding dresses for like the people who kind of want to be a little bit different. Wedding dresses is far too competitive, but vintage wedding dresses might not be, right? We'd be doing a little bit more research on all of these, but just kind of getting in the mindset right now. So craft supplies is a great one, especially kind of with the growing popularity of DIY or do-it-yourself type stuff on YouTube, where people are making crafts, on Instagram, on Facebook, all of the different videos that you kind of see throughout your life of people making all different types of cool little crafts and things like that. Craft supplies is an amazing niche to consider getting into. Yoga was kind of one of the original ones, right? People who kind of made the yoga pads popularized on Amazon. Similarly with Shopify. Coffee, tea, cosmetics, three, billion-dollar companies, billion-dollar kind of niches to get into, have become a little bit more competitive in recent times. But if you can find, your specific niche, maybe it's, vegan tea for, kids, or that's probably not a great example, but, you could do like specialty. Specialty. That's kind of a nice name, that I just thought of. So nobody steal that. But, if you can think about an additional kind of narrower, like we've talked about multiple times already, to, find your niche within a niche of tea or coffee or cosmetics or whatever it is, right? That is how kind of you really differentiate yourself. So, a good example is the Honest Company, right? Jessica Alba and I forget her business partner's name. They kind of turned a, environmentally friendly line of products into a billion-dollar company, right? And it kind of came out later that they weren't always being the most environmentally friendly, but they did a great job of marketing, right? The kind of like socially conscious person who wanted to be better about the environment, not pollute, not like produce so much waste. They were spending a little bit extra money, kind of spending money with the Honest Company because they, felt better about not destroying the earth. So they found their niche within a niche of, environmentally friendly diapers and all the different things that they were selling. So that's just a kind of an example that came right off the top of my head. So. This is Trend Hunter. We're going to look more into all of these websites in later videos, but I just wanted to show you guys kind of really quickly. Trend Hunter is a great website that I use all the time, and it basically just shows all types of trending products. Right, so Eco Bamboo Compacts, this is amazing, like whether it's like a bamboo coaster or, refillable lip balm. Some of the stuff I would just never think about. Oh, that's funny. Sustainable cosmetics containers, right? So this is environmentally friendly, like we were just kind of saying. Athletic Australian streetwear. So that is a beautiful niche to get into, right? And with the beauty of drop shipping is, ePacket, which we'll talk about later, the fastest way of shipping goes to a number of different countries, and I would assume Australia is one of them. We'll talk about that in a second. So golden chocolate bars, right? 100 days before the Winter Olympics, playing off, real world events like the Olympics or, the World Cup or whatever. The people who are kind of playing off that and, recognizing the huge marketing presence of these multi-million or billion-dollar kind of events, and then capturing a piece of those events through their Shopify stores are people who are doing a great job, right? Seasonality, selling Halloween clothing or Halloween, whatever it was, right? Halloween just passed recently, but people are making millions and millions of dollars kind of taking advantage of Christmas every year and things like that. So co-branded knee highs, collaborative designer pop-ups, right? Pop-ups in the windows, right? This is amazing. I mean, I could go through this for hours, so we're not going to look too much into that because I'll get distracted. But so let's talk about questions to ask yourself about a potential niche that you're considering. So let's say that you kind of came into, let's just say that you wanted to do enamel pins. You're going to do like a whole Shopify niche store around enamel pins. Maybe you're going to do pigs because you love micro pigs, and you know that people are out there and they also love micro pigs. So you decided to make an entire line and store of enamel pins surrounding micro pigs. So questions to ask yourself about this niche. Are the products easily available from a supplier? So this is a great one, right? So let's say that we were, trying to figure this out. So we would just type in micro pigs, and see what was available here, right? So there's a ton of different like stuff here, so they're obviously available, pretty cheap. And these prices are not the kind of one size fits all. If you order more pieces or you start to do like a larger volume, these will go down. And we're going to talk about how to negotiate those prices down to get the best possible prices. And again, enamel